Guys, welcome to another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails. I'm super excited. Again, you guys are getting the feel of the new studio that we got going on here. As I always promised you guys, right? I'm going to bring people on the show, not only just from the cleaning industry, but professionals in business that help you grow your business, get to a level that, again, as business owners, we don't need to know everything, but we need to have the people around us that are going to help us grow and scale. So again, the show is about empowering the space, giving you guys as much nuggets and information to grow your businesses, scale your businesses, and reach the heights of success that you feel is success. So today, I'm super honored. I got a close friend of mine, Ulises. Thank you for being here, man. What you guys need to know is he is my financial planner. He helps us with investments. He helps us with my 401k. I think it's been 3 or 4 years now.
I've been trying for about 5 years, but then you finally said yes.
Yes. So this is true. Talk about sales. Ulises, he hounded me for a few years before I jumped on board. But why I wanted to bring Ulises on the show is, as I've been growing my business and the businesses that I have, financial wealth planning, financial planning, understanding finances has become more and more crucial than ever before. So, and if you guys were like how I was in the beginning, which a lot of people are, is I didn't take finances to that level. I didn't think it was important. I thought, hey, I'm a small business owner. I'm barely, I'm making paycheck to paycheck. I need to make all the money for myself. These were the feelings that I had early on, and I never went to a financial planner. I never understood what it was to manage my finances. But thank God I met you, Ulises, because this guy broke it down as simple, stupid as possible for me to understand where my money was going to go, when it needed to go, what stage everything needed to happen. Give us an inside look at your journey, because you've seen the show. I like to share stories, man. And I feel like you have a great story. I mean, look at this guy. You guys don't even know. You don't want to see what's under here, but this guy is dressed to the nines. But this is who Ulises is. So, bro, take it away, man.
Appreciate it, man. Super pumped up to be here.
Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Thank you.
I grew up not far from here. And back then, it wasn't called Albany Park. It is now. But my mom was a single mom, right? And like most Latinos, we didn't grow up talking around saving and investing, right? Like she used to sell door-to-door cables, right? So I think that's where I got my sales stuff in the beginning, is she was this ultimate salesperson, right? But my father was in federal prison, right? So he wasn't around. He left us when we were 7 years old. So the money talk was not on the table for us. Mm-hmm. If anything, we were on survivor mode, right? Like I remember, trying to wear down the balls of my shoes so I could get some new shoes, or see my buddies with Jordans or their dads playing with them, and just not being a part of that. And that would just drive me nuts, but I also knew our place, right? But money was never, it was a big insecurity in my space more than anything. But I ended up going to school in DePaul. I got a degree blindly because my mom, she got a job at Northwestern University as a dean's assistant. She says, you know what, William, go get a degree in finance. I see a lot of applications coming in and that's their major. I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, I don't know, but a lot of people are applying. That's their major. I said, do that.
Just do it.
Finance or consulting. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But, I'm the oldest in the family. I have one awesome brother. And I just felt it was my obligation as the head of my household and that degree to do right? Like to not mess it up and not repeat my father's mistakes. So I'm like, okay, Mom, you're going to tell me to do this. I'm going to do it, right? So I studied finance. Didn't know what it meant. Junior year, wanted to skip that major because it was hard. It was a topic I didn't understand. Money, compound interest. I was like, what does that mean? So
which is a lot of us. It's a foreign language.
Yeah, it didn't stick. And I remember I was a junior, and I had a good buddy of ours that he was buying a condo, Mexican guy, buying a condo on Michigan Ave that was like $300,000. He was a senior, and I was a junior. It was $200,000, and he was calling the bank. He's like, I got this much saved up, and then I have this much here. And I was like, wait, you got like 40, 50 grand? You're a senior? Like you're a year older than me, and you got money? I'm like, damn, I have like $200. I'm gonna go buy an Express shirt because I'm gonna go party at the club tonight, And I hope that I have enough to buy a bottle of liquor with this money. So it was just a different landscape. But I ended up. Now as I reflect back on my career, it's like a couple of these stories of people having balances that I remember really vividly. that made me start thinking, I've got to be in a position one day to just have some money so that I can have a seat at the table to do whatever moves may present itself in the future. But at the time, it didn't stick because I just didn't understand that world, right? So got my degree in finance, and I worked as an analyst for a bigger corporation, crunching numbers. And that was fine because I like numbers and I like analytics, but I remember my family asking me, hey, should I do this to my 401k or what should I do with my investments? Because I was a finance major, but it's a different language when it comes to saving, investing, growing your money versus crunching numbers for a company.
Yeah. I was going to say that it's like when people think accounting, like there's a lot of different elements of accounting.
A lot of different elements, right? Yeah. So corporate, it's easy to do, but the financial plan is the emotional part of how do we go about making decisions, right? With, are we saving? Do we not buy this? Different things like that, right? So for me, I was like getting stuck where I need a financial advisor. And I'm a finance major, right? Mm-hmm. My family's asking me stuff like that. So at the time, I remember reaching out to a friend of mine. She worked at this one firm. She had a really cool name. Can't even reveal it right now because tell her who she is. But I remember I got engaged to my wife, Jennifer, at 25. And I had a pivotal moment because at 25, I'm like, I got to be a man, you know? And I didn't have a dime saved up to my name. I didn't have anything at all. But I'm like, I got to just grow up, right? So I proposed my wife. She said yes, thankfully. And I had dumped in $250 into an E-Trade account, Bank of America stock. And that $250 grew about a year and a half later to like $6,500. I took that money out and I bought her an engagement ring. Okay. So I was telling her, my babe, I got your ring for like $250.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. And I'm like, thank God, because I wouldn't have been able to get your ring. And all my other coworkers are spending money. I'm like, man, how much did you spend on this? And I didn't even know how to get that. And I remember having like $6-7 grand in debt, you know. So this is the only money I had. I bought her a ring, but we got engaged, and I'm like, all right, how are we going to pay for this wedding? And she grew up in the burbs. She grew up in Glenview, so I'm like, your parents got this, right?
Yeah, take care of them. Come on.
Yeah, and she's like, no, they live on pensions. I'm like, but they live in the burbs, and you know, your dad's white. Like, is that not? Yeah. And she's like, no, we got to do this ourselves. And at that point, I'm like, crap, like we got to save for a wedding, you know, like, and I had no money saved up, right? So at that point, I had to start figuring out, like, I literally wrote down every month how much I got to save, moved back home to my mom, lived on her couch for that year, and then every month tracked how much money we started saving for this wedding. But it taught me a really good lesson in like just creating a goal, right? A very simple thing. Yeah. So a question I get asked a lot of times, like, what's the best place to save money? And I was telling them, like, when do you plan on taking that money out, right? I needed this money within a year because I want to get married in a year. So I'm just saving old school, my checking account, right? Or old school, right? But so I saved, and I was able to save like 30 grand that year. I was like, wow. You know, so we paid for our wedding. We made a little bit of money on that wedding. And then afterwards, I remember going to an advisor. I said, hey, I have money saved up. I have $30,000 saved up. Mind you, I had like 7 grand in credit card debt. I couldn't tell my mom about this. So navigating through building a wedding. But I went to an advisor at the time and I said, hey, what can I do with this now? And at the time I was 26. And she's like, call me when you got 50. And it was like, it took the wind out of my sails because I was so proud to get to this point, coming from nothing to have this. And it wasn't that much because even my buddy who bought a condo when he was 19, I'm 26 now, had way more money before me. And I was just like, I was probably saying that. She's like, call me when you got 50. And I was just like, damn, where do I turn to? Right? Yeah. So I felt really like unmotivated at that point and kind of defeated. But I told my wife, like, we got to make the right decisions with this in the future, right? So I leaned on another buddy and reached out and started to figure out what do we start doing, baby steps, right? But it kind of got me in that point where I'm like, I'm not the only one that's kind of like getting to a point where you've got nothing, you start to build up little by little, and who do you turn to? So I find that my story was like kind of similar to people, like, hey, I don't know who to talk to. My friends, I can't talk to them about this because I'm embarrassed. Yeah, I made mistakes. I have a different hustle, but a lot of that's pride. Like me as a man, it's pride, as a Mexican man, like it's pride. 100% pride, right? Mm-hmm. So I couldn't reveal that I had debt. I couldn't tell my mom; she couldn't bail me out. I couldn't tell my brother; he left out to me. So it was just really embarrassing. But I need to make some changes, and thank God, you know, we had this wedding that we had to save for because it forced me to grow up. But had I not had this goal, I probably would have kept going on that path of popping bottles every weekend and living paycheck to paycheck. But a lot of that was self-driven, you know, short-term purchases to make you feel better. It's like everybody wants to become a millionaire and hit a big splash, but it's like doing the right thing for a long period of time. Yeah. Have your money grind too, like you're grinding. Like your money actually has to grind. If you're going to start from scratch, your money needs to grind. So that's a big thing. It's like everybody wants to make fast money. Fast money goes away fast. But your money to be long-term for yourself, it's got to grind with you. And as you have those pops, man, there's a lot of cool things that start to happen. But just like yourself, your money's at a grind if you're self-made. And that's why I love working with business owners that got into space. Because,
self-made.
Yeah, because I didn't grow up with much. A lot of people didn't grow up with much, right? So you know what? Unfortunately, we all have that sob story, right? Like we all have a sad story, but that's awesome. That's fuel to your fire. You know, at this point, we've got kids. What kind of sob story are they going to have but to build in grit for them? They're not going to have that same sob story we have. Hopefully they don't, right? Yeah. But how do we make them grit and fight for their stuff, right? Because you need grit to grow. Like, how are you be motivated, right? Like, so, you know, for me, I needed that grit and I needed that pressure of family to make sure that I got my decisions right. But that was scary a lot of times. But I think that's common with a lot of folks that are growing. So, you know, I got into the space because I love aligning with people. We have the same mindset, you know, and you were alluding to this before. It's like, you know, what sets you apart from other financial planners, advisors? There's a dime a dozen and there's a lot of us out there, guys. Yeah. Way better looking, thinner, better suits, all that good stuff, taller. But I think the big thing is that being in a low end in life and then starting to work your way up by yourself, but having a good tribe around you. For me, I could always appreciate somebody's journey and would never care more about your money than yourself, right? Yeah. So like I tell people, a lot of your friends are going to be envious of your success because they're hating on you in some degree. They want to be successful, not more successful than them. Yeah. Right. So they're going to give you enough advice, but not to get beyond them. Yeah. For me, as an advisor, I have a vested interest. We get like 1% of money we manage from people, right? Yeah. So I want you to be as rich as possible. So I tell people, I'm like, I want to make sure that you become the richest version of yourself possible. And if we can help facilitate that through introducing you to good relationships, getting you deals, helping your money grow, like all that stuff. Like I want you to be wildly successful. Yeah. So I tell people that it's like, oh, my investments, can you lose money? Values go up and down, and we'll go into that stuff later on. But we have a vested interest making sure you do well because I want you to grow. And unlike your friends that want to hate on your success, I want you to grow. Because at the end of the day, too, you show me your circle and I'll tell you who you are, right? And if my circle is winning, that means I'm also winning to some degree too, right? So surround yourself around people you admire and respect. You're also going to kind of level up to them too, you know? Dude. And your money will level up too.
Can I take a second here to say this is probably the longest time I have not said a word. And it's because the passion's oozing out of you, bro. Like it really is. As far as you guys, I hope you guys see already in the first few minutes of why I wanted to bring Ulises on and Yuli. So te llaman Yuli?
Yeah, whatever.
So yeah, I mean, like the guy's oozing out, maybe not necessarily golden nuggets, but just the story that he's telling should resonate with a lot of people. I mean, you just hit 3 or 4 points that I've never shared with anybody. Which one that I'll share is that journey of when you got engaged and you had to get married. So, you know, I don't know if you know, I think I've told you, I've been with Marley for 20 years, right? We've been married since 16. So what is it, 5 years now? So everybody's like, what the hell took you so long? Like, what, dude, you've been together 20 years and, you know, just got married 6 years ago. But it's because when we started the business, that moment we started our business was a moment we said, do we get married or do we build something together? We both chose, let's build something together. Because we were saving up, you know, like to your point on, you know, which is again, I'm hearing a trend in our conversation here is, you know, planning, milestone, goals. He's talking about financial, but it's life, it's business, it's, you know, success. It's everything is a plan. Everything is goals. And when people ask that, dude, I did the same thing. Like we're like, all right, we want a big wedding. I know you want a big wedding, Marley. Okay, it's going to take us a few years to get there, but we saved we saved because again, same like you, we weren't fortunate to, you know, for the parents of each other to pay for it. We paid for everything. So,
and you have a lot of friends,
dude. And
you have to come correct.
You got to come correct. Yeah. So like that just again, references, you know, things that resonate, man, that dude. Let's keep talking, man. Keep talking. Keep hitting us with, if you guys can see that he just made that so simple as far as understanding what financial wealth or the outlook looks like differently for every single person. Yeah. Right.
And I think that's like a thing that, you know, I'm turning 37 in November, right? And not long ago, so Mario Lopez, I'm a big fan of him. He's a Mexican guy. He stayed in shape.
I'm going to take his spot and to be the next host of the shows.
No, I want to do it. But he's awesome. He's a good family man, right? So like he's
busy. He's always working.
He's working. He's got a beautiful family. All that stuff. So you know, he's in Hollywood. I'm like, he's got good hair. So all that stuff, right? But what was I going? Oh, so I looked him up one day. I'm like, how old is Mario Lopez, right? So he's like 50 years old. I'm like, damn.
Stop it. Yeah. He's 50 years old?
50 years old.
What the shit?
So I said, damn, he looks good for 50, you know? And I said, wow, I'm not that far removed from 50. And I could think right now, 50, I'm actually closer to 50 years old than my 21st birthday. And I remember my 21st birthday really vividly. I remember like, partying and puking in a cup at a Golden Nugget, right?
Got a Golden Nugget.
At a Golden Nugget, and
that's a restaurant here in Chicago for you guys don't know.
Yep. And it's funny though, and it kind of scared me though, because I'm like, wow, life just flies by, right? And in my 20s, I never thought 2-3 years it seemed like it was like a long time ahead. And 10 years, if somebody would tell me, hey, save, because in 10 years you're gonna need this, it just wouldn't resonate with me, right? Yeah. Because 10 years seems like such a long time.
Yeah. I gotta worry about now. Like, what do you mean?
Yes. And even as business owners, right? It's like, man, 10 years I need to do now. It's like, yes, invest back in your business now, take care of today, but also know that 10 years will come before you know it. 5 years will come before you know it. And one thing I always hear from people all the time is like, man, I wish I would have known this stuff earlier on and would have done it differently. And I tell them, you did know that. You just didn't, it didn't fall on it didn't resonate with you because you just weren't there mentally, right? My grandmother, she had 8 kids. My grandfather wasn't around. Damn trend in our family, like broken relationships, right?
Yeah, but you're around.
Yeah, but I'm around. Yeah. That breaks it, right? But she would always tell me, Uli, start saving your money. And, and I was like, I'll do it when I make more money. But what was I doing? I was partying. I'd say, I'll do it in the future. Everything's deferred. And I think one thing I see a lot is as people make good money, it's actually like a hindrance on a lot of this stuff. So making good money is actually a bad thing early on. And why is that? Because it allows us to become better procrastinators, right? So if you think about it, you got a great job. People making $100,000 a year out of school, doing something cool. Well, then you've got no incentive to save money because in 2 weeks you turn around, you got money coming back in, right? So it allows you to keep on deferring the act of saving money, right? And then you're like, I'll do it later because I keep having money coming in here. But once that job's done, your lifestyle's at its point, you don't have anything in there. You lean on debt and then it crushes everything, right? So, and I've experienced stuff like that, right? So I think understanding that notion and living through a lot of that stuff helps me to just understand people with empathy and understanding, like, and trying to break it down and connect and say 10 years is not that long of a time.
Yeah.
Right? Like that time flies by. When I'm 50, that stuff scares me. So now life is like prepping myself up for that point in time. And as my friends grow and mature in their careers and they're doing some amazing things and business opportunities come along their way, one thing that keeps me up at night is positioning myself and clients to be in a position to say yes to opportunities. So that when we're in our 40s and our 50s and big things come along our way, why not be at the seat of that table to say, yeah, let's do it. I could write that check.
Yeah.
Right? I could do that versus, fuck, let me scramble around. Let me see what I can do. Right.
Yeah.
And time flies by so quick. Today, I saw this meme where I get all my real data at, all my news. Nas and Snoop Dogg, they had shares of Robinhood. So they have so Robinhood went public.
Yeah, it just went at like $38 a share or something.
Yeah, $38 a share, right?
Yeah.
So they bought it and they had like $20. They bought it at 20 cents a share.
20 cents a share? Shut up.
So what that means, right, is like if they had $100,000, they gave it to Robinhood and said, here's $100,000, I get 20,000 shares or $20 a share. If it's sold and they have that value at $38 a share, it's about $19 million they're worth today. So that if they invested $100,000, it'd be worth about $19 million today. So that investment, right? So people will see that and be like, man, I'm going to wait till hit it big. I'm going to find the next big thing to invest into and it'll work. That never happens, right?
No, it happens when you're not
looking for it.
Ready.
Right?
Yeah.
But these guys, to many people, they'll be like blind luck that they hit that jackpot. But what people don't realize is they had to write a check for $100,000, right? And there were rappers in the industry where life probably took them a bunch of different ways. But for them to be able to say, let me write a check. I don't know how much they wrote the check for. I'm just assuming, $100,000 as an example. But for them to do that, they had to have some money on the side. That's, I think, the first step that I try to help people see first is like prepare yourself so that when an opportunity comes knocking at your door, you can write that check, right? Right? Because there's a huge opportunity miss and opportunity cost of not being able to participate in that. I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah.
And I want to, and by telling those stories, how it happens to me, my clients can see, I'm like, man, I don't want that to happen to me, right? Now it becomes real to you, right? So, and I tell people, as we get older, people are going to get stronger financially and your network's going to get stronger financially. And
the network piece, that's huge.
And it's huge because you don't want to be the guy that can't be in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to double down on your family and their future because you're trying to keep up with them either, right?
Yeah, good point.
And that's a big thing that I think us being the first generation of wealth creators in our families, it's like we have to take care of our family first, but also have a juggernaut of assets that we're creating here that could be a part of those tables when opportunity comes knocking at our door, so we can keep scaling up and make some seismic changes to our lives, right?
Yeah.
So, and for a lot of business owners, that's my message right now. It's like, we don't know what's going to happen because opportunities are going to keep coming to your door, Ricky, right?
Yeah.
Like, people are going to pitch ideas to you constantly. You got to pick and choose what you want to do, but I want you to be able to write that check from a position of strength, not saying, Marley, let's defer eating a little longer, right? Because she's paid her dues, right?
Yeah.
My wife's paid her dues, right? Like, she still pays her dues because I'm getting fatter every year. But reality of it is like, our wives have sacrificed so much, right? So I want to make sure that our wives are strong. They feel secure, right? It's important for us as men, as family men, but then also still be able to have an ace in the hole we're building out over here.
Yeah.
So that as opportunities come knocking your door, and they will, because I see that happening to a lot of my clients now, I want you to be able to say, let me see if I want to do that, because it means right to you versus scrambling around trying to make it happen. And there's a different mindset, being offensive than not. So I think that's a big piece of it, is like understanding that it may be a slow ramp up time to accumulate your wealth, right? But if we could build in right habits around saving, do the boring stuff, be gritty, just like your career and building your business is grit, then when the pot gets big, you're there. You can make it happen. You know what I mean?
We'll do it. So, I mean, that's a great point to talk on our audience, right? A lot of the audience, a lot of business owners, for the most part, a lot of them are in the cleaning industry, right? Cleaning and cocktails. But for you guys to know, like, I'll give you some inside info on my life, on, my conversations with Uli too, because I feel like we said, this will resonate with you guys, right? So I've been in the business for 9 years now, struggled many years into it. I met Uli, again, like we said, 4 or 5 years ago. You had come here, you shared, how this could work. And, I think it took us like 3 meetings till I felt confident and said, I started to think the other way, like we just were talking about, where I was like, I'm a small business. I own a cleaning company. There's not much, funds there, wealth. I'm growing, but I'm not growing that fast, blah, blah, blah. Excuses, right? Excuses to not do it. I finally did it, right? And I got to tell you guys, I'm in the best position I could ever be at, because what you just said on being able to cut that check or say yes to this opportunity or make these moves that I wouldn't have probably made, right? Because this guy set me up for success, not just me, but the company, right? There's a lot of things that he's done for us that, we don't need to get into as deep, but the point is he set me up for success. I asked for help. He gave it. He spoke to us. He brought it down to the level for us to understand. And I think these are the conversations that you guys have to have with your financial planners or your team or your partners, right? Because if you don't talk about it, nothing gets done. And I'm telling you guys this because, like, people may think our success is, Rick, you're doing so well, you can be able to do so much. But I'll tell you, there's times we live paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because he put our money in some other places that I can't touch for a while, right? Or he invested it in certain degrees. Or us as a company, we started doing 401k, and the executive, I touch on that part too.
Yeah.
Uli, because again, it's not that we're not making money, or it's not that I don't have the money. It's the money's making money, right?
Yeah.
And it's other areas, because if not, I would have spent that money and it would be gone.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, there's this meme that I saw, or this picture on Instagram, and it's like your checking account, $300, your investment account, I don't know, 20 grand, right? It's like, I feel broke, right? Because you want to just always feel broke, because that's going to keep you sharp right now and keep you hunting, right? And keep building.
Marley hates me for that.
Right?
Hates me.
And it's a balance, right? Because, you're doing well, but you also got to play these tricks as a business owner, right? To keep sharp. Because I think as business owners, once you get comfortable, you start to peel back, and then the business starts to unwind and unfold. And you got to stay sharp right now, because your competition is coming behind you too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the nice thing is, if you stay sharp and you feel financially secure, even though you're building a monster behind the scenes, that'll keep you even better in your business, right? So I tell a lot of people, it's okay to feel broke, because that keeps you sharp, right? Like, now you don't want to get to a point where you're still eating ramen, because I don't want that to be the case either, but it's finding a balance, right?
I eat cereal in the mornings.
That's not ramen. So you're good. You're good. I can't do all that salt and bloatiness, but a lot of business owners though, we understand, and I understand the psychology that comes with a business owner and the insecurities that comes with money, right? Because So
Uli, real quick, think about, because I want to drive this one home too, is think about a cleaning business owner, and I'll give it to you, is the first year, man, it is a struggle. We are cleaning the accounts. We are doing all the work ourselves. We're working our asses off in a putting ourselves in an environment that it doesn't doesn't look, like people will say, oh, you own a cleaning company, right? Like just the perception, man, it really sucks at some points, right? So
but that's what I love about this.
Talk about that. Like what should those people start thinking?
I love a cleaning owner story, right? Some of my most successful clients are in the cleaning space.
Yeah.
Some of my wealthiest clients, right? Actually, so I got into financial planning and my marketplace was I want to work with blue collar people that don't look successful, but they're the wealthiest people, right? That's the coolest thing ever is like the millionaire next door, right? Because they're doing the oddest things that you think are not wealth. So I love how in one of your podcasts you had a guy that he didn't look like a janitor, right? It's like he didn't look the part, right? It's like, what does that mean, right? But reality of it is like, yeah, your first year you're slugging it out. First couple years you're slugging it out, right? But it's finding a little bit in that space there to see the bigger picture, right? Because even though you're not where your peers are at, where your friends are at, you're actually building momentum, right? And you're building relationships. And that's a lot of value in it. There's a lot of monetary value in that because you're building a book of business. You're building a resume for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money you're building in there. It's like age receivables you're really building for yourself. So as I see you building a brand, that's a value to it, right? You're building a lot of momentum. Your bank account doesn't show it though, right? Yeah. But you're getting your highest highs are now your lowest lows, right? So, you're going to double your revenue quickly. And then become more efficient in your margins. You're going to understand things a lot better. You're going to learn your business better, right? As time goes on. But you gotta make a lot of mistakes along the way. So a lot of business owners in the cleaning space, right? I think the big thing is, you have to reinvest back in your business, right? Because you can't keep
exactly. Those are the first things we think about is
always reinvest.
The money's got to go back in my business first.
Hire good staff, right? Hire staff. Hire good operations managers, right? They're going to be able to have you focus on the thing that's most important, and that's for you, rainmaking, right? So you have to be the offensive juggernaut, building relationships, getting deals, doing the sales. Not doing the hourly work you're paying somebody to do any longer, right? Yeah. And it's a big difference because a lot of business owners were perfectionists.
Yeah, it's tough to let that go.
You can't let that go, right? Yeah. But you have to invest into hire staff, pay them well, and that's going to hurt you.
Because you can't pay yourself.
Because you can't pay yourself, right? You're like, fuck, I can't get that car that my buddy has, but he's been in the business or he had a couple strokes of luck differently, right? You can't. Comparison is a thief of joy. And that's one thing I've learned for myself personally, that you cannot compare yourself to somebody else's success.
Did you guys hear that? Comparisons are a thief of joy.
Comparison is a thief of joy. And you have to celebrate your buddy's success. You have to be there for them, but also don't think you're invaluable because that your time has not come, right? But reality of it is, even if your bank account doesn't reflect that, it's crazy. I got this really crazy story personally for myself. I went from not being able to save anything 1 year to saving $100,000 in a year, flip over like that. Why? Because when you build your business, that shit happens.
Yeah.
That happens. You go from nothing to something because you've been building things out like
for
crazy.
so long.
For so long, it just clicks.
It just compounds.
And then a normal person won't be able to understand that but then again, they haven't put themselves in that grit that you put into mental, physical, relationship exhaustion. So, you paid a high price for that,
Yeah.
So you deserve it. And then you get there faster and faster, right? As you keep on scaling up, that happens, right? So invest back in your business, but not invest into the shiny toys, right? Invest into the right people, right? You could trust, pay them well, have them here happy, right? So as a business owner in any space, invest back in your staff, right? Have them be there so you could pull back and then focus on the big picture stuff, right? So as business owners, a lot of times, if I meet a good person like yourself and I see the trajectory, and I've been doing this a long time now, I can see people's trajectory. I'm like, this person's going to go somewhere. Let's be with them, right? Let's be with them because I believe in them, right? Just like we believe in you. And everybody sees that now. It's like, I want to find a diamond in the rough. And that's been my knack, is finding diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that time will come, right? So business owners, develop back into your business, hire good staff that you can be there so you can focus on the rainmaking stuff, finding the deals, and then you're going to get better at running your business too. And then as you start to make money, then get in the habits of saying, let me parcel off a little bit of money on the sidelines here. Right, I'm going to keep on reinvesting back in my business, but I want to have my little get out of jail card here, 10, 20% money on the sidelines.
So, Uli, real quick, I'm going to intervene there because I think this would be a good nugget for the audience to know. You may or may not be able to do this, but just off the whim, so we have stages, right? Like think about the first couple of years in our industry, especially. Yeah. You're working in the business, right? You got to learn your craft. You got to, you're doing everything so that you can know every department and be able to delegate and hire somebody. Yeah. Is there a metric or is there something that we can say, hey, I have a $250,000 a year business. Mm-hmm. Uli, you're my financial, wizard. Can I put 10% away? How do I put 10% away? Do I put is there metrics as far as when you get to, because I'll tell you, there's a stat. The stat for us in our industry is about 90% of the industry is at $1 million in revenue and under.
Mm-hmm.
For those people.
Yeah.
How do they level up, right? What is there different milestones or based on numbers?
Every business is different based on city you're living in, right? So your margins are different. Right?
Cost of living,
right? So that makes a big difference. And cost of goods are going up like crazy. You're paying, if it depends if you're paying your staff for their mileage and all that stuff, right? So that goes in place. I tell people this one thing though, is as a business owner, think about a number, right? Of money that's coming in every month. So if your business is doing $1 million a year, that's about $100,000 a month, $8,000 a week, right? If you think about $8,000 a week coming in there, think about how much of that $8,000 a week that's coming in can I put on a side that I wouldn't even think about, whatever that number is. Is it $100, $200, $1,000? Once you start thinking about that and your breath gets a little bit tight, that's that number.
Yeah.
Right? So
because you should be a little worried.
A little bit, right? Exactly.
If it's too easy, then it's like you still should keep going.
Right? Yeah. So it's like running a marathon, and saving is running a marathon. You're not going to run 26 miles a day. Pick a number you're comfortable with. If I'm going to run for a marathon, I'm going to start at like a mile. Ricky's going to run a marathon, he's going to run at 3 miles because he's a little bit better in shape. So, and that's kind of the same thing with saving, right? Yeah. Is that pick a number that feels a little bit scary, but it's not going to unmotivate you from saving. A little bit on the side, right? I like to think though, ideally 10% is a good target, 20% is optimal, right? But Rome wasn't built overnight and neither is saving, right? So pick a number that you feel fine with and then check yourself every month or every 6 months and say, I'm getting stronger. Let me add more weight, right? Add more savings. You get stronger, you add more weight and do it, right? Because if you make more and you start spending more and buying bigger cars and buying bigger things, now you got to work just as hard just to kind of cover all that stuff, right? But add more weight to your savings. So this, because saving money, it's not going to make you the wealthiest person in the room because investment back in your business will. But having a tree that's going to give you opportunity.
It's opportunity, man.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So I tell people, think about building a tree for your life where you want to water it, right? And you can't speed up that process, but it needs time. The more you water it, the better and bigger, stronger that tree will be. So you could say yes to other opportunities. And there's a lot of cool things we could do within that tree. A lot of different accounts. So people ask me, what's the best kind of investment account? Cryptocurrency, my 401k, Roth IRAs. Those are all products, right? But the behavior of saving is the first and foremost important thing. And people want to shortcut that process where we got to train people to become good savers first. And then as they get stronger, save more.
Yeah. So because the others are vehicles. Right?
Exactly.
They're vehicles.
And my kids are superhero fans. I'm a big superhero fan. Batman, I think about you.
His kids are in superhero costumes all the time.
It's summertime, 100 degrees, they're in costumes. My God. We don't even watch those things anymore because it's so hot. The bacteria disintegrates. But, you have a utility belt and there's all vehicles. Those are all tools you use depending on the job or what's going on in place. But to get that belt filled, you need to save, right? That's the big thing, right? But there's a journey to saving. And once you learn yourself better, you become a better saver. And then opportunity comes knocking your door, you can say yes because you've done a good job of building it up. So I think that's a big thing, Ricky, is for people, everybody's got different metrics. I like to think the easiest thing is try to live off of 80% of what you bring in and save 20%. Yeah. It's a good 80-20 rule. But don't get neglected or demoralized if you can't do 20, right?
Yeah.
Start off baby steps. But then know as you get stronger each and every month, add more weight to that until you get to that point where you're in a good rhythm. And have a good team around you, right? Yeah. But it's the 80-20 rule. Live off of 80. Because one of the things I remember doing with my wife when we were first trying to become better savers is I was actually trying to save too much. We were saving 50% of our income, but then we kept dipping into our savings.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. And it was driving my wife crazy. She's like, what the hell's the point? Like
why do you keep transferring money? You taking money out.
Transfer game. Yeah. So that happens, right? So I had to slow down. All right, I have to be comfortable because at the end of the day, it's you got to build momentum and progress in saving money. So pick a number you're comfortable with, see that account grow, and then add more weight to it. But the reality of it is, don't compare yourself to anybody else because that hurts you.
Yeah.
And then you'll get demoralized, you'll stop, and then you stop the trajectory.
Okay. So Uli, now let's talk about, some of the audience that does have a bigger team. They are hitting that trajectory mark, right? And the reason why I want to bring this up, you guys, too, is I had not known about this executive plan until you brought it up to us.
Yeah.
But can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah.
For those that may be in that position?
Yeah. So, it's interesting because there's when it comes to financial planning, it's we need to help you build from scratch, ground up, right? Building some good habits. or you're in a position where you have money. It's like, now what do I do now to keep on growing, right? How do I make my money work for me? How do I scale? So there's a lot of different things you could do, right? So I think first and foremost, as any business, you have to revisit your lines of credit, right? We've talked about that in the past, right?
You helped us with that.
So have lines of credit, right? And revisit that, get those expanded, because a lot of times I'd rather you have a line of credit with low interest rate help you pay for an age receivable that's coming in next week versus your cash that can be reinvested elsewhere and make more, right? So kind of think about this, right? The stock market, the S&P's average 8% growth over decades, right? You're going to earn 8% of your money. You could borrow money at 3%. Borrow that, make the difference, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's just a little tool, right? And that borrowing rate, you're getting a tax deduction for it too. And as a business owner, you need to maximize those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for a lot of folks, we start saying, as you have cash on the sidelines, don't be an old school Mexican, right? Don't have your money under the mattress.
Don't be like my dad. Dude,
Right, yeah.
I found this in the sock under the mattress and under the behind the picture frame, within the picture frame. I'm like, Bob, what the hell are you? What? I don't trust them. Like, you don't trust who? Banco. I'm like, all right, shit.
But like that's old school mentality, right? But life's getting more expensive. We call that inflation. So your money has got to keep up with it, right? So don't keep it under the mattress first and foremost, right? Keep your emergency fund there. 6 months of your living expenses on the personal side, maybe even a year's worth of expenses on the business side. But once you're at that point, have your cash start growing for you, right? So one of the cool things that I had a client do, and I like using round numbers for examples, right? So he had $100,000. He had like $300,000 in the bank. This guy's doing really awesome for himself. And he doesn't want to send his kids to private school. He's like, it's too expensive. And I'm like, how much is private school? He's got 2 kids. He's like, it's going to cost me $10,000. And it's like, okay, well, $10,000 to send your kids to private school. If you had $100,000 in this account, it would have made you $10,000 in interest, and you could have taken that interest to pay for your kids' school. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, bro. Like, let your money work for you, right? Yeah. And now you could send your kids to school and not worry about that. Like, he's like, oh shit, yeah, like I should do that, right? Yeah. So it's like little things like that. It's like working smarter, not harder, right? But it took him to get a while to get to that point, right?
But I was going to say that point right there too, guys, is it took a while. Like,
yes.
I don't want anybody to tune in and hear it. These guys are talking like, yeah, it's easy to say when you have the money to do, but it took
takes
time.
It could take
there.
decades to get to you at first 100.
But that's what's possible. Is
exactly
you could send your kids like me right now, 3 years old, Nico. I've got about 10 years before he could go to private school, junior high,
mm-hmm.
right, or high school, or then private school, and then college comes up. Like that's in 10 years already.
That's not that far away.
I've got to do it now.
Yeah,
right?
We got to work on that. But to that point though, I hate to throw out numbers, right? Because I don't want people to think like, no, it's not that at all. It does take time. I'm 36, 37 years old. It does take time to get to that point, right? And so Kobe, I listened to a lot of his podcasts. I'll study this a little bit earlier, but he talks about mastering the fundamentals. Master the fundamentals. Then as you get a tax return, you get bonuses, whatever it is, start saving that money, right? And you get to that number. And so it just takes time. Give yourself permission to take time. But going back to your business owners, right? Like I think a big thing is helping them make sure they have lines of credits, right? So that their money they have isn't disintegrating like water. Because you're making money and people see, oh, you've got a lot of revenue coming in, but your expenses are high too, right? So you've got a multi-million-dollar operation. You're a millionaire. No, it's just revenue coming in, but my expenses are costing it, right? Yeah. It's like quicksand at that point. And you've got to keep on becoming efficient and better at making that money faster to keep on supporting that operating cost, right? So one of the things you do is you get a nice line of credit to help fund in your age receivables that's coming in predictable, right? And internally, what do? Make sure your accounting team is knocking down an age receivables wall so that nobody's beyond 90 days, right? Making sure you're keeping that tight, right? Yeah. So that your money.
Kudos to Alex and Neil on my team. They kill the game.
You've got to have a great accounting team, right? Yeah. To keep that in check, right? Because now you're keeping that money, right? And now you know what you have. And maybe every quarter you look at this and say, okay, how much do we have in this account? Is it 1,000, 5,000, 50,000, 100, whatever that is? And let's keep on building on this number. Like just keep watching it, right? And then there's a lot of different cool ways you could save money. So one thing are 401k plans, right? Like as you get bigger, you fund it through your payroll. You could save for your retirement because, for us, we're not getting any younger, but you could do it through your paycheck, right? What I like about these things at times though is that it's going to get taxed in the future, but people don't save on their own easy. The easiest way to save is through the paycheck. So
good point.
And that's the biggest thing.
It's out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. So it's like, how do we create an environment for you to have the highest chance of probability of saving money before you even get yourself that money deposited in your bank account? So save their 401k plan. Protect yourself from yourself, right? So I saw another thing on Instagram. It's like, oh, you pay tax on it. Yeah, but you would never have had that money in to begin with.
Yeah.
So just put yourself in a position of success. Create your environment to be successful. Take that money out before you spend it. So a 401k plan is cool. It's a great tool to use. And 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you'll have a ton of money in there. I promise you that. That's probably the biggest thing I see people having, easiest, without a lot of savings.
Yeah.
In about 4 or 5 years, as a business owner, if you max that out, you'll have $100,000 in there in about 4 to 5 years. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Okay. The cool thing about that, though, is you've got about $100,000 in there. You can borrow half of that money, $50,000. And if you and your siblings are all in the same company, you could say, hey, we could take out some of this money. Let's buy some real estate with this thing, and we'll borrow from this account. So I'll put in money, tax deducted. I'll borrow it, tax free, and I'll buy a piece of real estate, flip it. Now I make some more money, put that money back in there, and we keep on doing this all over again. That's a good way to do it. Let your business help you save money, but do it out of sight, out of mind, like you were saying, right?
Yeah.
So these 401k plans are awesome. It just takes a couple of years to kind of build up balances in there, and then you got to borrow from it, put the money back in there, especially as you're just getting started. It's finding ways to leverage your cash until you really get your own working capital for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's at a different journey, but it's how you use these tools along the way. They all have pros and cons to it. That's one of the pros into it. We have these defined benefit plans. There's these life insurance policies out there, right? And you could actually save money inside a life insurance policy. You could pull that money out. There's this tax code. It's in section 7702. You could actually stuff money inside these policies. You could borrow from it, take it out tax-free. A lot of cool things you could do with that, right? So it's got to be designed properly, but you could use that. So people think, wow, that's different. You have investment accounts that are different from like cryptocurrency. So right now everybody thinks about like cryptocurrency. 2 years ago, it was like cannabis stock, right? Like you make money fast, you lose it, right?
Bro, let's not talk about cannabis stocks.
So and there's always going to be like a theme, right? But I say, investments in the market, people are like, I don't trust the market. Over time, the market just keeps on growing, right?
It's proven itself.
It's proven itself for sure, but it's just, you got to be in that space. It's like, you got to be surfing for a long time around the waves, but it's proven itself strong, right? But the cool thing is, for a lot of our business owners, what we do now is we'll have an investment account, and you could actually take out a line of credit on your money, right? That's a nice thing to have, because line of credit is an under talked about tool for business owners to have, because for Latinos or minorities, debt can be seen as a bad thing. But line of credits are very impactful things.
Oh, dude,
to help smooth out cash flow.
It's the best thing that ever. I mean, I could see what you mean as far as it could be looked at the wrom way, but if you use it the right way, it is a tool for you to grow.
We're a proud culture. We're a proud culture, right? So if you tell anybody I got into debt, it's a bad thing. It makes you look bad. Who gives a shit, right? But it's a good tool.
It's not a debt if you don't if you don't have pull out.
It's just smoothing out cash flow, right? It's like, I'm going to pull out my line, but I get this agency I pay it down.
Pay it back.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it, man.
And so those are some like small little tools you could have, right? Have your line of credit, have a good game plan to save some money on the side. If you can implement a retirement plan to your business, right? You could have profit sharing plans for your key staff, keep them in there. Because the big thing I think that I want to help people do is empower their staff to be there forever.
Well, because these are incentives, right? Like
exactly.
You're talking about like, this labor market is tough. So ways to stand out is all of these other ways to say, you're not only going to make salary and have health insurance, but look at all these ways. If the company succeeds, you succeed.
And I think it's a big thing, right? It's like, I think as I don't know, the CEOs or presidents of companies, we have a little bit of an alpha, but we love the attention. Like, you love that, right? But you also have to deliver to your family. You have like a lot of stakeholders that you actually are leading, and they actually are relying on you. So I always want to help people understand that your success, that your family members also know that they participate in that success, right?
That's a big piece.
It's a huge thing, right? So, and they want them to know that there's a monetary component to that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're our shining star, but I'm also taking care of you, and you're doing that. And that's awesome, because a lot of people don't do that, right? It's like, yes, it's my success, but it's really our success. And I think when people see that they are following you, they're gonna ride you forever. They're gonna follow you because they know you got their back. You know what I mean? And there's tools that are there to recruit, retain them, and also give you confidence. Like, I am actually helping them out because I am doing it. And if they stay with me, I am actually taking care of it. Because even as a leader, you might be like, man, am I doing the right thing?
No, you do. There's doubt all the time.
All the time.
Because then you always have that one person that could say something that you're just like, damn, did I really,
it's a lonely
I have to
space to
rethink
be.
myself?
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was doing everything good, but that person just said that. That makes me think.
Being a leader in your space is a very lonely world. I've found with a lot of my business owner clients. So I've connected with them in a lot of ways, but because I understand what's keeping you up at night, and it's a lonely space, and there's a lot of pressure for you to deliver, right? But there's a lot of cool tools in there to give yourself a check and say, you know what? I am taking care of my family, and they're also gonna be good in the long run. It's not just me, because I know you got into the space not just for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's your mission. I think one of the first times you had taught, I forget one of the number, but you had said, I just want to be able to employ thousands of people, right? And that's a powerful message, right? But the most important people, there are people that have helped you grow, right?
Yeah.
And you want to make
foundation.
sure you want to make sure they're secure, and that they can pay their bills, they can send their kids to the best schools possible, right?
Yeah.
So you have all these financial instruments that are available to people, but also for you to be like, yeah, I could hook you up. And it's not a matter of hooking, it's I'm laying a foundation so that you have that security for yourself too.
Nice. Well, man, you guys, I know talking about numbers and finance is, it could bog you down. It's a lot to intake, but I hope that this conversation that we had just gave you guys some information, some nuggets of just good information and a wealth of knowledge to understand how important finance, planning, setting goals, the different instruments that, especially us, right? The cleaning industry, business ownership, that we can take advantage of and everybody find yourself a Uli, right? Everybody needs one, right? It's just important for you to know you don't have to do this by yourself. You have people that could be on your team and support you. So Uli, dude, any last minute things that you want to share other than that?
Life is tough as it is. I think the biggest thing is, don't compare yourself to that person that's doing well ahead of you, right? Comparison is a thief of joy, right? And progress, little by little, is progress nonetheless, right? So just take one step in the right direction and build momentum. It's all you focus on is one day at a time, right? So don't get caught up in Instagram and social media where we should be at. You all have your own journey. Take your time, but make progress every day.
Oh, man. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. And then also for everybody that's watching, if you're cool with it, we're going to put your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
all your social media, maybe an email as well. So you guys can actually reach out to him. It'll be in the description down below in the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell for more and more information. I hope you guys enjoy, man. It's Uli doesn't come from the cleaning industry, but he's a business professional that helps people in the cleaning industry. This is why I brought you on, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time, guys.
Cheers.
That was good.